Hi everyone.
Hi guys.
Cheers.
We're back with the very, very wonderful Sarah McCartney. And
in her studio.
Yes.
We're not in the loft, just in case you didn't notice that.
and this is really where the magic happens, isn't
Yeah.
it, Sarah?
It's where it, whatever it is, it's where it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've got champagne as well.
Yeah. Pretending to be tea.
So cheers.
Cheers.
So we just thought it would be really interesting and hopefully educational for us and maybe you if we talk a bit about how you make perfume, the things we smell and we waffle on about without having much actual scientific knowledge.
I mean, we have none, do we?
No, we have none.
We talk and spout, but really...
But because we talk about things we can smell, and I sometimes think the point of perfume is not to be able to smell the ingredients, but to try and smell the story the perfumer's trying to create. So we are smelling the finished product, which is the perfumer's intention. But I think it's interesting to find out how you start. And particularly, we wanted to start by talking about notes, accords, and materials. Because lots of bottles of perfume now on the back will say bergamot, lavender, and musk. So we think, oh, okay, so that's got 3 ingredients in it. Okay,
Nice and simple.
If you're in the fragrance game a bit, which you probably are if you're watching this video, you probably go on Fragrantica and you look at the notes list and you see, oh, that's got 25 different coloured pictures in it. So that must be a really complicated perfume. Or that's just got 3, so that must be a really simple one. So we're hoping you can demystify what do those 3 things mean: notes, accords, and materials.
Okay.
Cheers.
Well, we'll start with the simple one. Thanks. The simple one is materials. The materials are the things we use to put in the fragrance.
Yeah.
And those can be natural, they can be synthetic, they can be things which are technically natural. So you could get something that's a natural strawberry, but it's not made out of strawberries. It's made out of lots of other individual materials that smell like strawberry. Those, I don't think anyone else calls them this, but I call those Frankenstein's monster naturals.
Okay.
Because they are alive, but they're not made up out of what you think they are. But because a lot of people insist on natural, and writing natural on a packaging is a selling point, behind the scenes, companies are pushing the boundaries of what could be thought of as natural.
Yeah.
But materials are things that we use to put it list in our formula to make a fragrance.
So just going back to what I was saying, say if we talk about Fragrantica, you look at a fragrance which has bergamot, lavender, and musk. So they are notes.
Yes, they might be made of natural lavender, they might be made of natural bergamot, and they might have some a collection probably of different musks in there, all of which will be synthetic now. But the bergamot smell might not be made up of bergamot essential oil. It might be the component parts of bergamot, because bergamot's going to be, well, it's 65% about usually linalool for a start. So you can buy linalool, and over that side of the room you'll see there's a big vat.
Oh yeah, the big blue one. Yeah,
massive blue vat there says citroflor in it. That is organic, natural bergamot.
Okay, that's a lot of bergamot.
That's a lot of bergamot.
Wow.
I use a lot of bergamot. Yeah, it's not full anymore. The blue vat on the other side, just as to believers, says linalool.
Yes,
So,
the small one.
You know, if I wanted to take that and the other components of bergamot and put them together, that would still come out as a note of bergamot, because a note says, what does it smell of? A note is, if it smells of bergamot, it's got a bergamot note. That does not mean that it has bergamot in it.
Okay.
So note could be replaced by the word impression, for instance.
Yes.
I get an impression of blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is we as a smeller. That's what we're experiencing.
Yes. As long as you experience bergamot, it's a bergamot note.
Yeah.
Something like fig, a fig note, there's no natural fig at all. So it's not as if somebody's replaced it. That there is not a natural fig used, because fig essential oil was long since banned because it's scarily dangerous on the skin. I mean, it's like put it on your skin and it, you know, yes, horrible things.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
So someone like imaginary authors, for instance, who always include an imaginary note, I'm making up one here, but say fear.
Yes.
So that is a matter where you think, oh, ha ha, that fear isn't really a note. But all of those notes have been made up to some extent by the perfumer.
And you will get, if you get the impression of fear from it, if you smell something that goes, oh my goodness, that's a bit weird.
Yeah.
You know, I might perfectly well put a note of weirdness in something, but because I think impressions are a really good idea, and an aura of something. And a lot of people are very, very disappointed if they find out that something says it's got a peony note. There is no natural peony material. It's been carefully created by somebody very skillful to make it smell as if you were in the presence of a peony.
Yeah.
That person does not get the credit. It's not fair, I think. But I'll use my painting analogy, which people who've been here all the time, because I use it a lot. But you're out in a garden, you spot a violet, you want to paint a violet, you've only got your little travel set with you, which has got red and blue. So you blend the red and the blue until you get the right colour, and you paint it. And you take it home, put it on the wall, and somebody says to you, oh, what colour's that? You don't say, well, it's red and blue.
No.
You say, that is violet. But there's no, you didn't use purple to put in there. Yeah. So the aroma of violets these days, mostly, ironone alpha, ironone beta, maybe a little bit of methyl ironone gamma if you're splashing out.
That's my favourite.
Yeah. And if you're very well off, then you might drop a little bit of natural violet leaf absolute in there. But if somebody says, what does it smell of? You say, violets. So you're right, it's a violet note.
Sure. And so on the word accord.
Is French for agreement and also chord, many notes put together. So if you say there is an accord of powder, then that means that you have used several different materials to put that together to give an impression of powder. An accord and a note, those things might overlap.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to make let's say an amber accord, you could make yours of 2 things, 5 things, 7 things. It'll be a collection.
So I think that's a good thing to talk about now. So we've talked about completely conceptual notes like fear. We've talked about something like bergamot, where you can say you have natural bergamot. A note which crops up a lot. Things like amber and leather. They're 2 notes which crop up a lot, but that doesn't necessarily mean you've got a pair of old boots in it. So amber.
Amber.
What does it mean when we see the note amber on our perfume?
Well, it's a
big question.
Easy question for you.
Well, there are 2 kinds. Okay, yes, let's do that. Cheers. We're going into the amber. 2 things. Way back before the synthetics were invented, you had the ambre gris and the ambre jaune. Yellow amber and grey amber. So the ambre gris came from what my gran would call ambergris, which was ground down whale poo from the sperm whale that
you got a bit over there. We were just
yep, we have. I could but I've got the tincture. You can because it doesn't smell. Let's get diverted by ambergris tincture.
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
We're going straight to that.
We're going straight to skin. What I want you to do is just have it on that hand, so you can compare that hand with the other hand later, and just see what difference it makes, because it by itself doesn't really smell.
So I got a bit of alcohol, and then
you would get a lot of alcohol because it's a 3% tincture. So wait a minute, and I'll tell you a story. Sorry. And then when it's dried,
can I just say this is like the most exciting thing that's happened in months? This really is. But this is wonderful. This is what we live for. Sorry. You're right. I forget sometimes how exciting it is, because I've had it since 2015. So, so the ambergris, when perfumery was excruciatingly expensive, just for the super rich, before synthetics were invented, people would grind down yellow amber, which is the fossilized tree resin, which floated, and the grey amber, which is the very ancient whale poo, which floated. And so they used to be harvested, ground down, and used as fixatives, because both of them were very sticky. So amber jewellery, if you have an amber necklace and you sort of heat it up and smell it, you can get
slightly rich smell of it. You can imagine how expensive it was that people actually ground it up and used the tincture of that. So, and then the ambergris, same thing, but that gave a slightly different impression. So when vanillin was invented, perfumers discovered that if you took, basically I use 1 part vanillin to 2 parts labdanum, is that way around? Maybe I'll keep it secret. But you put that together, that created the smell of yellow amber, ambre jaune.
Okay.
And then ambergris, you've got something like Ambrox, which exists on the surface of, it's the white powdery stuff that is on the surface of the ambergris chunk.
Oh, yeah,
I should go and get it.
Sure. Do you want me to go and get it while you talk?
Well, I know where it is.
I think I can see it. Is it just over there on top of that?
It is just over there on top of that. Okay, I'll have a look. So,
We need some whale poo. Right?
yeah. So the Ambrox, that is a material which
There is some white crusty
exists
stuff.
from that. Yeah, white crusty stuff. So that, and then there's another material in it called ambrine. That's that's about.
There you go.
That's a fair amount of money's worth. So I just
Would you care to give
I'll
it?
just have it back. No, well, if I weighed it, I think there's about £1,400 worth.
Oh, right. Okay.
But look, I'm going to have to divert you. I didn't pay that much for it, but what happened was this was washed up on a beach in the Bahamas after a horrendous storm, and the fishermen's boats were washed inland, and they couldn't get them back on the sea to fish, so they had sort of no means of livelihood at the time. There were no grants to try and get the boats back, and so it was a hurricane. They found all these bits washed up as well, and long story short, a chap called Tony Wells, who set up a ambergris sort of website now, he brought it to me, and I scraped together as much money as I could possibly get and bought a couple of lumps, and my money went to pay to put these people's boats back on the sea so they could go fishing again.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I like to think of it as, it's not like, it cost that much. It's like, this has paid for people to get their jobs back. So
Altruistic ambergris.
Altruistic ambergris. Yeah. It's like, but and I ground it up and I make a tincture. So I put it in alcohol for this one was 2017 that we used there, and off you go. But nobody really uses that much these days.
Because it costs £1,400 for that much.
Exactly, and Ambrox exists. Yeah. So there's 2 kinds of amber. The ambre jaune, the one that you are thinking about, the
so if I can,
classic amber
interject with my amber story slightly. So Joe and I were at the Perfume exhibition in Somerset House in London, and we went to the Givaudan stall at the end and smelled lots of materials, and I asked to smell some things, and they gave me some labdanum to smell, and I said, oh, that's amber. And I know it's amber because that's what amber sultana smells like, and that's my kind of reference point amber.
Yeah.
And so what I've always had in my head as amber is labdanum, which is this sticky, resinous-y...
Okay.
Yes.
It's this.
Yeah. Okay. But what this is labdanum plus vanillin.
Okay.
So that is closer to the yellow amber smell. So
this is just labdanum and vanillin?
Yeah. You could also, I brought the benzoin out as well, because you can add benzoin to it. You can add other balsamic, lovely sticky things. And something like, I make Shazam. And then there's, thank you, Andy Tau's L'air du désert marocain, and Ombre Fétiche de Goutal. That's a lovely one of these traditional ambers. Yeah. And the problem is, of course, that the British can't really handle ambergris and ambre jaune. So they call everything amber. And they got mixed up.
Yeah.
So modern ambers don't really smell of this kind of amber a lot of the time. It smells more like, let me give you this one and see what you think.
That's beautifully classical, isn't it? You can tell straight away. It's sort of like
so,
the glory days of cooking.
When you say ambre fétiche, I kind of,
Thank you.
But I can let you smell the labdanum just by itself as well. Because vanillin, it's not really sweet. So that changed the world because vanilla obviously is so expensive, but it's mostly.
Oh right, okay. So This is what we recognise from Sauvage and things like that.
Yeah, this is basically Johnny Depp digging a hole for no apparent reason.
And this is Amber Extreme. So what is that?
Amber Extreme is a single molecule. This is diluted to 1%.
You've just written sexy on there.
Sexy Woods, I wrote.
Sexy Woods, yeah.
Yeah. I classify some of my materials because it's much easier to remember when people come to workshops.
Yeah, no, I can see that, yeah.
To say, and I probably just thought to call it, see, this one's called Sensual Balsam.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so
otherwise, some of them say fluffy bunnies.
So...
But that's not like, that is modern amber sort of smell.
Yeah.
So that's Amber
Extreme
with
but of course,
a capital
still
X.
has its place, doesn't it? I mean, that used by someone like you that actually knows what they're doing.
I would normally use a tiny bit of that to make a perfume last a lot longer if I need to, but not so much as you can smell it.
So this is the smell which was in my head as Ambroxan.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you that now, because a lot of people think that they hate Ambroxan, or also this one is actually Ambrox Super, but it's pretty much the same thing, different trade names, and they don't hate it. They hate that. I don't think anyone.
So these are molecules that a chemist in a lab has put together and patented.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This one exists in nature. But it's taken from clary sage or beetles.
Yeah.
I think it's extracted from beetle wings.
It's far more subtle, isn't it? And
Much more. You'd scarcely notice it was there.
Yeah.
And I use that.
It's not that offensive, smell it on the tree when everyone else is wearing it kind of smell.
No, that's the Amber X here, the Amber Extreme, either of those. You do not go accidentally spilling the 100% strength on your trousers. And then getting an Uber.
Yeah, sure, yeah, that's what I said.
Twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, a tiny bit of that. You don't need much at all.
Okay.
Even the Ambroxan or the Ambrox S, which I have, you can use just maybe 2% in a formula. It's very expensive for synthetic. It's 5 times more expensive than the lovely organic bergamot, for example.
Really?
Wow.
And you just use a little amount. It's an excellent fixative. It does make things last, and it does make them, it improves the sillage.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's very valuable in the perfumery collection. The traditional amber is much more, as well, what used to be described as Oriental.
Yeah.
So, but you need the vanillin really to make that happen.
Yeah.
Labdanum by itself.
Yes, please.
So that's my amber accord that I smelled. But I guess it would make an amber note.
So would benzoin normally be in your amber accord as well?
I don't really have it normally.
Labdanum.
My basic is that. It's good, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't lie.
Kind of very kind of
green,
dark, moody.
I love that.
Kind of witchy green, I would say. Like a potion. Good. Yeah.
Well spotted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is it by itself.
Thank you.
Ah, interesting. Yeah. Some of the sweetness is missing.
It smells much more herbal, I think.
Yeah. And,
medicine.
yeah.
And sort of gently smoky.
Kind of almost a kind of distant relation of patchouli or something like that. Maybe.
It's quite often used with patchouli as well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So by itself, this is Labdanum Absolute. I have.
Yeah. Nice. So that's amber. So another note which you see lots and lots and lots and lots is leather.
Yeah.
Now, presumably that's not just an old pair of boots which someone's left in some oil.
No, although I do think, I think some people have actually done a leather tincture by cutting bits up and sticking it in alcohol.
I was going to say, presumably can you tincture almost anything?
Yes, but not legally.
All right, sure, okay.
A lot of the time. I mean, the things used in tanning leather, you would not want in your perfume.
Yeah.
So,
because I also wonder about enfleurage as well. Is in the book Perfume.
Yeah.
The kind of human enfleurage that they do in that, is that theoretically possible? I mean, obviously that's definitely not legal. But
oddly enough, I hadn't even considered it. But I mean, we do have this running joke that I'm going to tincture my great aunt Pyrrha
Okay. Yeah.
I have my great.
You would teach her rather than enfleurage.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
kind.
because she is already in powder form.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, at home
Okay,
on my
all
shelf.
right, I see.
But she was such a marvelous person. She ran. She just did all kinds of things. She learnt French and Italian and Dutch and judged dogs at Crufts and ran the factory that held made rivets to hold Spitfires together, disguised in a bakery in Chelsea, all kinds of stuff.
Amazing.
So I thought I might tincture her.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But I don't know if you've seen, there's a modern German series based on the book.
I haven't seen it yet, but I heard.
But there is a perfumer who offers a service to make human enfleurage of people. So they turn up. There's a ballerina who turns up and said, "Oh, can you cover me in fat?" and then leave it for the rest of the day and then make that into a fragrance.
Oh, okay. Oh, we could do it.
If you've got another studio room, you can give it.
Yeah.
But anyway, as you would normally make a leather accord.
Okay, you're right. Easily distracted.
Yeah.
Leather. Okay, so this first kicked off when chemists invented isobutylquinoline. Actually, butylquinoline is used now, but isobutylquinoline by itself is very sharp. But you put that with patchouli and a little bit of white birch, and that creates your leather accord. Mm-hmm. So there are 3 materials, an accord makes a leather note. So I think that we've got the thing now. Perfumers use accords to create notes.
Okay.
So we'd use materials, we'd use accords to create notes. So now there are lots of different variations of leather molecules. There are different leather molecules which you can use to add different effects to them. So people might use safraline. And then there are other leather, what are known as bases, which are not base notes. That's another confusing thing. But a leather base is something which say like Givaudan, Firmenich, IFF, have created their perfect inside of a handbag smell, or the smell of a new Jaguar that's apparently sprayed in. In fact, boss of Hyundai told me that Toyota, he used to work there, they created a special new Toyota smell for Europe, because over here we love the smell of a new car, and you have to open the door and think, oh, that smells like a new car. In Japan, they don't want any aroma in their car at all. They want it completely deodorized, absolutely fresh. So a new Toyota has to be sprayed with the smell of new car.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So that the British and the rest of Europe will buy it, because otherwise we think that's not right.
That's incredible.
So these marvellous leather accords exist now, and we can buy some of them. I smelt a couple last week.
So what about also things like castoreum? Because when we're in Bloom, we smelt some actual kind of castoreum, and that to me kind of smelt material. Kind of leathery, and I felt I kind of recognised it from some things when I'd seen a leather accord, and maybe not to quite the same extent, but orris root as well. I sometimes feel had a kind of different, because again, leather is quite like amber, I suppose, is quite a broad, even though it only comes up as one icon on Fragrantica, it's quite a broad spectrum.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, even if you used to smell, shoes, handbags, belts, horse saddles, there are many kinds of leathers that people are aiming for. I like suede rau, which is the inside of the handbag smell, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't use castoreum because I know they say that the beavers are cold anyway, but I don't use animal products, not from dead ones. I do use some beeswax in a couple of things, but that's after the bees have left it behind. So I've got some castoreum hiding. Somebody sent me a sample at some point, but I won't put money on it. But yeah, there's synthetic castoreum as well. So creations that smell like that.
Okay, so
I think
leathery. I think this has got quite a good point to kind of segue to our next big question, is that synthetic versus natural. People sometimes contact us and say, "Oh, can you recommend any good all-natural perfumes?" And I don't like any of these synthetic chemically perfumes. I don't want perfumes with any chemicals in them.
There are 100-something odd years.
And as we were saying earlier, I mean, a rose is a chemical. A bergamot is. I mean, everything is chemicals. Everything
is made from chemicals, but actually, the late lovely Laurence Roulier-White said something to me once which helped me to understand from the point of view of a nerd that I am, somebody who knows no science whatsoever. Laurence said, but I don't understand what you mean about chemicals in something. Said, I don't want to put chemicals in my product. Said, I don't mind molecules, the ones you use, but I don't want chemicals. And the tendency of the industry when hearing something like that is to say, oh God, how can you be so stupid? Which of course slams the door shut immediately and nobody ever learns anything. And that kind of opened a chink and shed some light on it for me, because then I realised that Laurence thought that chemicals were harmful, but molecules are all right. So, and here when people are smelling different materials, they'll smell the lime essential oil and go, oh, that's chemicals. I said, yes, it is, but it's made by a lime tree. And the lime oxide smells, people think that just smells lovely, so that must be the natural one. Made by scientists. Yeah. So, you know, all of these things that we use, whether they are natural or synthetic, are made of oxygen and hydrogen and carbon in different structures. Carbon dioxide is responsible for the life of every plant on the earth. Carbon monoxide will kill you in 5 minutes. It's I mean, there are naughty ones, there are nice ones. But a rose, the smell of a rose... Oh, the neighbours are on the phone. The smell of a rose is made up of about 300 to 600 different chemicals.
Yeah.
Are natural.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it?
It's amazing. And a lot of those are very nasty on your skin. Because nature produces the rose to attract insects so it continues its life to the next generation of roses, but it doesn't want to be eaten, it doesn't want to be attacked. So if an animal tries to start biting its way through the petal, it'll go and, you know, sort off somewhere else.
So is a synthetic rose note, does that have all of those chemicals?
No. And a lot of the time it'll miss out the ones that are harmful.
And leave you all the best bits?
Yep.
Okay. Well,
that's the genius of great perfumers, isn't it? That
exactly.
You can take synthetics, you can take naturals, you can combine them and sort of judiciously knowing exactly how much you need.
Yeah.
So have you got any examples of anything where we could smell a natural and a synthetic?
Version of. Yeah, I might have... I'll tell you what I'll do first, which is some blends. I've made... and then I'll get some materials I put in.
Yeah, sure.
I made recently, I did the Clouds project, and Christy Long from Oh My Soul, I knew what she would ask me because I've done this before. She would say to me, I want to use all the most beautiful naturals and give me a list, and then I want to be really affordable. So I predicted this, I planned ahead, and I said, tell you what I'll do the one that's got all the natural versions of these things, and we went for orris, we're talking narcissus, we're talking things which are 8, 11, 13,000 pounds a kilo, up to vanilla now, which is 23, 30,000 pounds kilo. But that can't be made affordable. It just can't. Oh, it depends, unless you're...
But surely, that's your job as a perfumer, to find a balance, and so there must be some things which you feel work better as a natural and some things which work better as a synthetic, and then you have to balance them. True. Yeah. So any examples of anything we think, actually, I really want that natural, even though it's expensive?
Yep. I'm going to let you smell Clouds, which is the one that has the expensive naturals in, but plenty of synthetics to make sure that it actually works as a perfume.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to let you smell Clouds Illusion, which is the one that has the... some naturals, which are, like, for example, the bergamot's in there because it's affordable enough. But Clouds Illusion has in a recreation orris. Okay. It's got a recreation orris. This one's got a recreation narcissus and a recreation. What else I put in there? Vanilla, tonka. But they both have synthetic musks in, and so this. And I kind of challenge you to spot the difference.
Okay. Okay, so we've just had a little break there for Sarah to go and get some Oris, the natural and the synthetic, and so we've now had this on card for about 3 or 4 minutes. I feel this one feels a little bit rounder and fuller.
Yeah, same here. This is the synthetic, the illusion, cloud illusion.
Some of the brightness when we first sprayed it has gone, and it's starting to smell a little bit orosy and a little bit kind of rounder. And anyway, but
slightly buttery as well.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
But I said there's nothing I could perceive which marks one out as more synthetic than the other. Those words, if I were to smell them side by side, would not be words that would come to my mind.
Which is why I think it's a real waste of time, a lot of the time, discussing it. It's a shame that people aren't more open about how lovely the synthetic recreations are. And sometimes the naturals are endangered. So this one also has some natural sandalwood from a sustainable source in the Clouds version. The Clouds Illusion does not have the natural sandalwood in it. It's got synthetic versions. So, I mean, they both have Oakmoss in. They both have real Oakmoss, because I just before the Oakmoss deadline hit, I made the batches of this with the Oakmoss and has the. But it's fine. The new Oakmoss is good enough anyway. So, Oris. Okay, I'm going to let you smell this Oris butter. So you can.
So should we introduce Oris butter?
Okay, Oris butter.
Is Oris butter?
Meet Daniel. Meet Joe.
Yeah.
Okay, Oris butter.
Not to be put on toast.
The iris smell is traditionally, expensively made from the rhizome of the iris plant, and it's called Oris. So that's the original powdery smell, because Oris roots were dried down and ground up and used to powder wigs and the whole of the court of Louis XIV, etc. So that's where Oris originally came from. So the powdery smell was known as that, because powder used to be made of Oris. So it's quite earthy as well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. So is this a natural Oris in? Oh god. Yeah, it's so deep and rich, isn't it? When you
very melancholic.
And it looks like butter.
It does.
Looks like you put a little churn of butter here.
It does. So I'm going to put the lid back on it and then let you smell something else.
Sure.
Which is.
Oh, that's good stuff. Thank you. Oh, okay. That's.
Oh, that feels much punchier, woodier. That not Oris, is it? Okay. That's quite.
That feels far more scary, like a damp, cold.
It feels much bolder than the other one.
Which one do you think is the natural?
I would have said the other one.
This one's the natural.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
This was not rehearsed.
Wow, that's incredible.
Interesting.
Yes.
Because this feels so kind of, as you said, kind of scary and bold.
I think it's much more underground. You could put a note of scariness.
Yeah.
You wrote this, because it almost feels if you're being buried underground.
Very unsettling.
Wow,
I think
interesting.
it brings the I grew underground feeling with it, I think.
Yeah.
There's
really
there's
interesting.
witchiness in there.
Very interesting.
It seems to me that we need a new word for synthetic that doesn't have the negative connotation of synthetic.
Yeah. Well, we've gone with synthetic rather than chemical, even.
Yeah.
And then there's ACs, shortened for aroma chemicals. But that is
constructed or something like that.
Well, the recreation is this one is called a composition nature identical.
Oh right.
So it means it's made from the same individual chemical compounds, molecules, which exist in nature in Oris.
Yeah.
And that one's by Showerbull.
So, another slightly contentious or provocative ingredient.
Bring it on.
Oakmoss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll maybe get onto the word IFRA in a minute. But if we just start with Oakmoss, again, lots of discussion over real, over not real. Is it dangerous? Is it the most dangerous thing in the world? Of all the best perfumes, got lots of. Oh my gosh! Wow.
I know.
Yeah.
Trouble is that it arrives. I haven't taken the lid off. Right, this is great, isn't it?
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Oh, it looks amazing. It looks a bit like a tin of poo.
It does a
but
bit. Okay. Right. Okay. Smell that.
Oh wow! That is.
See what's
Yeah.
happening.
Right.
But that is intense, rich, dark.
Okay. Oh God, I hadn't realised it had done this in the post.
Oh wow.
It's supposed to be kept vertical. Do they keep them vertical? Do they egg?
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
there you go. I just opened that especially for you. Okay.
Thank
Now,
you.
can I smother myself in that?
Yeah.
Tell you what I need is to wipe it off. There
Do you want me to get some blue roll while you talk?
Thanks. And I'll get the lid off this one.
Yeah.
Thanks. Mind you, I wouldn't worry so much about it as if it was this one. Thank you so much. You never had this essential equipment for perfumeries. Big blue roll. Right, it's okay. It's fine. Should have had the gloves on.
That's a really incredible smell.
Yeah. Next. Pop. Here's another one. If I just hold that and you go.
Oh wow, that's really. God, that's so dark and rich. That's really amazing. It's almost almost bordering on kind of animalic. It smells so kind of dark and. Ugh.
Okay, so the
That gives me a leathery, smoked, cooked
Yeah.
quality.
The thing about this is, look at the date on it. This is over 10 years old.
Okay.
So
Ah,
the way that materials are now, they come with use by dates. But actually, something like this, which has absolutely no moisture in it, no water in it, they can last for a very long time. You know, there's aged sandalwoods. I've got one I've only got this much. It looked like a really big bottle on my Instagram, but it's this big. I've got 4 grams of 20-year-old sandalwood, and it's marvellous. This is 10-year-old Oakmoss.
yeah.
So one of the reasons that it smells absolutely amazing is because it's old.
Yeah.
This one is brand new. There you go, 23rd of the 7th, 19. And this one has had the atronol and chloroatronol taken out of it. So this one is compliant with the new regulations that came in last Friday. But it still smells
Yeah.
poor.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Oakmoss isn't banned. It's been restricted for a long time because honestly, if you'd seen the pictures of the things it does to people's skin who are allergic to it, you just say, "Get that stuff out of my perfume." For some people, it's horrible, and the reason is because plants produce it to defend themselves. I mean, essential oils are basically insect repellents.
Yeah.
They're not lovely things for perfume.
Yeah.
They're made by plants to protect them so that they survive. And if you think about, you know, lovely lemon essential oil being produced by the skin of a lemon to stop things eating it, so that it can grow seeds, so it can grow more lemons. That's what it's for. It's for survival.
And the same with grass, isn't it? That lovely freshly cut grass smell. I can't remember who told me once, but it's the smell of the grass screaming. Literally. Was it you? Maybe it was you.
No, I think you guys too. It's doing rounds. It's a material which exists in grass.
Yeah.
That's why if you cut grass, then you get that smell released. But the one that we use in perfumery is synthetic because we can't collect it from grass. You can't get it out of grass. So cis-3-hexanol comes from labs. So don't worry about the smell of screaming grass in Ealing Green or anything.
So again, I think we've now started to very nicely segue to our next kind of naughty word, which is IFRA.
Yeah.
So whenever we've certainly said on our channel when we've talked about gel, and we've said that a lot of that they've been reformulated and that they're not what they were, and it's all the fault of IFRA, who tell perfumers that they have to take all the ingredients like Oakmoss and lots of these lovely ingredients. They need to use less and less and less of them.
We've been slightly mean, haven't we?
You've been misinformed.
Yeah.
It's very easy to blame the messenger.
Yes.
And people don't understand because honestly the regulations are hell. We run a whole workshop called Brick Walls and Flaming Hoops to try and explain to people who think they can just make a perfume and sell it that they can't. And there are a lot of things they need to do before they can...
So who makes the regulations?
The regulations are made by governments and their regulatory bodies. So we've got a big stack of Californian regulations coming in. New York are bringing in a load. Compared to, normally in the US, it's like, oh, do whatever you want, then we'll sue you if we give you as a rash, you know. Whereas over here, the EU regulations are, well, tell you what, let's find out what's safe, ban what isn't, and then nobody needs to get hurt. That's the way that they go around it. But the people on the regulations committees tend to be dermatologists who only ever see rubbish skin. You know? They're all going in and they go, oh, well, that's probably caused by perfume. Let's ban that.
But this is all governmental bodies, not IFRA.
Yeah, it's governmental bodies. IFRA is, I'm a member of IFRA. I think I'm the smallest ever, tiniest company. Actually, possibly that. But in terms of size of company, we are so tiny. I think they actually invented a special rate for me to be able to afford to join, but it is nice. Because I'm a nerd and I like to understand, and I get emails every day on new technical things that we need to be kept informed about from the industry point of view. But IFRA are the people who go back and do their own research and say, oh, hold on a minute, you know, you say that caused a rash in a small collection of 10 people in 1976 and this happened. We've done this research. That shouldn't be banned. Let's say, how about we take it to that level then? And so IFRA are actually the ones pushing back. I do happen to know that the chap in charge of the EU regulations last time, who is British, so whatever happens, we are going to have him. He wanted all perfume banned. So if we are,
it's not looking good.
It's not looking good. If we are going to be free of EU regulations, we're going to get this guy let loose on us.
Okay, so it's from the frying pan to the fire.
Yep, because he really wants to ban everything. But last week we had reached the deadline, and this was EU regulations, which have been copied and pasted straight into the UK regulations. So, and that was that this new Oakmoss is now to be used. The old Oakmoss, we have another year to sell through everything that has been made with that, and then we mustn't put anything new onto the market made with the old stuff. And this has been, the last 2-3 years, this has been out there for anyone to read on the EU site. But suddenly it's like, oh my God, they found this. It's not that.
And has this Oakmoss, the 10-year-old Oakmoss, has that been through regulations before?
Yes,
so
that was restricted anyway. That was already restricted. There were restrictions on Oakmoss, but restricted doesn't mean banned. It's like there's a speed restriction going down the high street. It's not the same as saying you can't have your motorbike down there at all. Yeah, it's a restriction. So there was a certain amount that you could put in a finished fragrance, and honestly, if you went up to that amount, you'd have Oakmossed yourself till Christmas. It's something like 0.1% in a finished fragrance. You just don't need that much. It's fine. So the smell doesn't actually change. They've just taken out the bits that give you a rash. So, panic over. What has been banned are Lyral and Lilial, which are materials which make things. They smell like lily of the valley, and they're in most floral fragrances. So most floral fragrances are now going to have to be reformulated. And nobody's made a fuss about that because they didn't know. But there were those 3 things in this particular piece of legislation.
But IFRA is helping perfumers.
Without IFRA, there would be no legal perfume industry.
Wow. So we should stop being so mean about that.
I think so. Yeah.
It's a shortcut. It's it's saying it is, like I said, shooting the messenger. It's like.
Are there occasions? So obviously you're a professional perfumer. You're making a living selling perfume. But if you didn't have to abide by these rules, are there things? Is there kind of any naughty perfume you'd make?
I mean, the weird thing is that at the beginning, before I could get anyone to tell me what these regulations were, because it can be quite closed, and the view tends to be, what do you mean you want to make your own perfume? Well, it was 10 years ago when I started. Do you want to make your own perfume? We'll make it for you. What are you talking about? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
And now there's far, far, far more people. But before I knew what mine were, I thought they were, illegal and outside the regulations. But then, of course, when I found out what to do, went and got looked at the formulas, ran them through the software, sent them off to the regulators, because we have to pay cosmetics chemists to do our stability test and all that sort of stuff. I found out mine were legal after all. So everything I wanted to use turned out fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
This is maybe a slightly bigger question, and maybe too big. But speaking of formulas and software, I mean, how does that all work? You have a recipe, do you sit and experiment and say, right, if I put that much of this and that much of this, I'll see what happens? I mean, how does it?
Okay. It's two different kinds of software. There is one set of software which just does all the calculations about how the allergens add up.
Oh, okay.
So, say you're restricted to 6% citrus fruits, essential oils in a finished fragrance, and I'm using a bit of mandarin, a bit of lime, and also, say, bitter orange, which is actually more restricted because it's got some other naughty things in. So we have software where we enter the formula when I've finished it, and it'll flag it, say, okay, that's legal at 14% strength in in a fragrance.
Yeah.
Or it'll flag up in red, you've got too much basil in it because basil has carcinogens in. So it's the naturals that are dangerous. That's the other thing.
So worrying.
Pesto. Watch out for pesto.
Yeah, synthetics. Oh, the things that you can eat might be fine on the skin, and things that are fine on the skin you might not want to eat. So that doesn't work either. So we use that software just to check through. After a while, you get to feel. I mean, you know what you can use and you know you can't. Things like labdanum, benzoin, they're all restricted. And there are some lovely synthetics that have no restrictions whatsoever, like hedione, nothing, you can bathe in it. There's that which we use for checking the safety, so that we know when we send it off to the assessors, we won't have to keep paying over and over again and reformulating. Yeah. So we check our formulas first to make sure that they are going to be legal before we pay out the money for the safety certificate, because you need the safety certificate before you can legally sell.
Yeah.
There's another kind of software, which is where you can put in your list of materials, and it'll say, oh, this is the formula you should use that percent of this, and your perfume will be wonderful.
So does that depend on the source of the material as well? Because presumably there are different manufacturers of, I don't know, a sandalwood oil, and you need to be specific as to which manufacturer you're using?
Yeah, it's not even that. You need to read off the safety certificate that they send, and the analysis or the GCMS or the IFRA certificate that comes with the material. You'll know, I mean, say you've got different kinds of geranium, how much geraniol there is, how much phenyl ethyl alcohol there is, and so you have to feed that into the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Into software, so that when you say I'm using this geranium rather than that geranium, it'll get the calculations right. Yeah. And it might be that one of them's safe at 17%, one of them's safe at 23%. So you decide accordingly. So perfume's a lot of maths.
Yeah. Wow.
I think people don't realise how much goes into doing what you do and what wonderful perfumers are doing.
Oh no, they think you're all there with your lovely staff in your attic and standing.
It's very romantic, isn't it?
Can we go back? Can we now kind of backtrack a little bit, just to go back to one more note stroke accord, which is one I like a lot, rose. And it seems to be an absolute minefield. And I was saying to you, I've got a rose growing outside the front of my house, a Benjamin Britten rose. That, I mean, if I smelt it and it was bottled, I would think it's synthetic because it's so bright and it's so sweet and so. It smells of plums almost. It doesn't smell of rose, but there seems to be
coming round your house.
It smells like there's such a big spectrum of rose. And is that just different breeds of rose, or is that because they are rose accords, which have been sometimes I think they smell apple-y, sometimes they're geranium-y.
Do you know les parfums de rosine?
No.
Ah, well then you must, because all their fragrances are rose themed.
Okay.
Every single one. And every one of them is completely different. And Marie-Hélène, who owns the company now. The brand used to be, it was Paul Poiret's brand a long time ago. And it's one of those phoenix ones she resurrected, and she absolutely adores roses, and she will have her perfumers. François Robert made a load of them. She puts the rose in a Tupperware box or whatever, couriers it off to him. He puts it in the headspace analysis, finds out, assesses the molecules that are coming off, the chemical composition of that rose, and then he recreates it.
Yeah.
With some naturals and with some synthetics.
Oh, wow.
So there's a beautiful one, Rose au bord de la mer, or Écume de Rose, these seaside-y fresh ones, and Zeste de Rose, and they're all just amazingly different roses.
Yeah.
So each rose will give off a different fragrance.
Fantastic.
But then you've got the classic kind of rose, the ones that are collected, at the harvest. The petals everywhere. They grow just down the street in Acton as well.
That's handy, isn't it? You just pop down, get a bucket full.
I do all my rose pictures on the Uxbridge Road because I don't get to grass. But so that's a standard species.
Yeah.
But according to the weather and the ground, the terroir, like wine, they can smell different. But Paul Smith rose is entirely synthetic, and you cannot find a more beautiful, perfect, I think, rose fragrance than Paul Smith rose. Like £30 a bottle, it's nuts. So. But no roses were harmed in the making of Paul Smith rose.
Yeah.
I've not tried that. I must.
Yeah. Oh, you must.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, before we get into kind of feature length video, is there anything else, particularly any kind of like perfume myths you want to debug, or do you think we're kind of there?
I think you've done pretty well.
Yeah, we've done well, I think.
Interrogating.
Well, I think we've kind of learnt a huge amount, although it kind of feels like we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah, there's so much more to
but we're not going to go into the feature length. So if you've got any questions, ask us below. Another helpful way you might be able to find out if I'm allowed to do this is you might, if you're on Instagram, is to contact 4160 Tuesdays, 4160 Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And Sarah may be able to answer you some questions if she has the time.
I might. Yeah. We're on Instagram. We're actually 4160 Tuesdays Perfume. I'm trying to reclaim 4160 Tuesdays. I lost one of my emails, but long story. But anyway, it'll come up.
But you are also able. You can comment on our comments below.
Yes, that'd be good.
So if you've got any questions, let us know. But until next time.
Well, thank you to Sarah.
Happy sniffing.
Bye.